All right, guys, we're going to do the under 80 kilo breakdown. It is the most stacked division in the history of grappling. Nothing compares. ADCC has had some good divisions. This will be the hardest bracket to win in any tournament in history, and it's very deserving of the $1 million prize money. That's $1 billion to first place, $10,001 to everyone else. Second place means nothing. So guys, I want to talk about the story so far and how we got here. I had a feud with ADCC about grappler pay because they booked T-Mobile, and I know they've already sold out. Basically, I've had a lot of problems with this organization, mainly the current promoters. Historically, love ADCC, but we had a bit of a feud, and I was given $3 million to run an event in counter to the ADCC. So we booked the old venue. We decided to pay everyone show money, ADCC $10,000 to win. We're paying $10,001 to every athlete to show up. Of that $3 million, we're giving about $2.5 million to the athletes. We're spending over $500,000 minimum on production, and we've secured an Emmy award-winning team to cover the production. Most importantly, though, we're spending like 6 figures on the alley itself with the angled walls. This thing costs a fortune to make, but one of my biggest problems with the flat mat space or the elevated mat stage is that it's dangerous first and foremost. Some of those guys might hit the table, they might fall onto the concrete ground below the elevated platform. And really, it's just the resets. You see a lot of matches where there might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes of a 10-minute match where the guys are being reset consistently. People will be playing the boundaries. For us, we won't have that problem. The alley, the angled wall, inspired by karate combat, makes it so that the action never has to stop. Very minimum referee interference, and that's exactly what we want with our event. Lastly, most importantly, is any revenue generated. So obviously, things on top of ticket sales, sponsorship, it's all going back into our non-profit. The non-profit will be donating to a select few charities around the world. So me personally, I've got Academy Christos in Bali, Indonesia, where we filmed with a group of people that work with low-income people in Bali. My Australian friend Jeff runs this non-profit. He uses jiu-jitsu to help the kids. Fionn Davies has chosen MAP, I believe, which is a charity for Palestinian children that are undergoing, obviously, the issues arising out there. We also have a Ukrainian children's hospital that I've personally selected as well. But we have Tap Cancer Out. So everyone has a cancer story, so this one should relate to everyone directly. Rich Byrne has agreed to donate dollar for dollar what we choose to donate to Tap Cancer Out. So that's massive. And then I just got a text this morning that there's a third anonymous donor that's going to agree to match what we and Richard Byrne donate. So let's say, best case scenario, we generate enough revenue of ticket sales that we could donate $500,000 personally to Tap Cancer Out. Between Richard Byrne, former Kasai boss, and this new anonymous donor, Tap Cancer Out will receive $1.5 million. So that's super special and obviously should incentivize people to purchase tickets. But again, totally understand if you can't afford that, which is why we're going to stream this free on Meta, X, and YouTube. You guys will have those links. It'll obviously be on B-Team YouTube channel, B-Team's Facebook page, and B-Team JJ on Twitter or X, right? So again, if you can't afford to buy tickets, you can do that. But this will be the biggest weekend in grappling history because on the Friday, our event kicks off around 3 p.m. It's going to be a long day. We're going to do all the qualifying rounds to get you through to the semis and finals on day 2. 1 alley space, 1 surface to compete on, so you really don't have to miss any matches at all. Other tournaments obviously have more divisions, but you'll be watching multiple mats at a time. It's hard to focus on what is going on. This 1 alley space, so you're going to see every single match should you choose to do that. Day 2, we kick off at 5 p.m. We're kicking off late. We're kicking off late because we really don't want the fans to have to miss out on ADCC as well. ADCC kicks off at 10 a.m. We're not kicking off till 5 p.m. I don't know. I believe ADCC aren't offering pass out on tickets. So if we clash too much, you'd really have to make a choice there. So we kick off later in the day. And that means that you could see our entire first day, you could see most of ADCC's first day, and then you could see our finals and our super fights. And then on the Sunday, you could show up and see all of the ADCC finals. So most importantly, as a grappling fan, there's really not much more you can ask for this weekend. This might likely never be repeated. There's probably never going to be a clash like this again. This was really just to prove a point that athletes could be taken care of. So remember, the goal from day one was always to get athletes paid. We've done that. More people are in ADCC than would have been. We took many of their athletes. Those spots were filled. Now there's more grapplers competing this weekend on the biggest stages in the world. We got the women's pay for ADCC to equal that of the men's. We got show money across the board, $2,500, by pressuring the ADCC promoter into doing this. On top of that, some of the star athletes allegedly are getting quite significant amounts of money to remain competing with them that weekend. So we have got the athletes paid. In our event, show money potential for $1 million. ADCC are now paying show money more money, and we've equalized women's pay. So really, that was the goal from number one. The second goal was to grow the sport. This feud has clearly grown the sport. It's getting more attention than anything else in, I think, the history of grappling, or at least in recent memory. So the sport overall has grown. The individual athletes' social media profiles have grown based on, who are they going to choose? What are they going to stay with? They're going to choose money. They're going to choose prestige. We've grown that. And ultimately, ours residing free is going to grow the sport because there's no paywall. There's no weird subscription service they have to get involved with that might hold them back from watching the event. Ours is free. We've turned down offers from at least 3 major streaming networks or platforms to put this free because we believe that before it ends up behind any paywall one day, maximizing that money, not always relying on an anonymous donor to fund this event. We want to grow the sport as much as possible, and to have it free is going to grow the sport. Anyone can watch this. It's going to be so easy to watch. But obviously that dragged on. That's longer than a Gabby Garcia response. But let's get into the under 80 kilo division. Let's sort of talk about why I've chosen these athletes. Again, this is the most stacked division ever. We'll start at the top. Andrew Tackett. Andrew Tackett, I actually trained a little bit with him when we filmed a Flow Grappling reality show. I realized how talented he was. We've seen him do some incredible things out there. Him and Joseph Chen, two of the biggest prodigies in the sport, they're 1-on-1 against each other, 1 submission each. Andrew was able to beat him most recently, past his guard and choked him, I believe, was the latest ADCC Open, but these guys are like 12 years old, a lot happens fast. Joseph sort of got his biggest win ever at the time by knee-barring Andrew Tackett, but Andrew's a local Austin kid. He's faced already some of the best guys in the world. He had a close match with Mickey Galvao. He's beaten some of the best guys in the world. And really, I can't emphasize this enough. He's never in a boring match. He's going to be one of the most exciting guys in this tournament. And a personal favorite of mine, not just because of how he competes and who he is, but him and William Tackett were the first guys to come out of ADCC and join our event. So can't thank him enough for really supporting me in this. But he didn't just get given this for being in early. This is one of the top seeded guys in this event. I'd place him top 4 or 5. Varella's another guy out here who is always scrapping. He's always hitting people with collar ties that are probably way too hard to be legal. He's hitting some crazy backflips. He's beaten some really impressive people. He's beaten Big Dan. Actually, Andrew Tackett beat Big Dan as well. So these top 2 guys have beaten someone probably 100 pounds heavier than him, which is absolutely insane. But Varella's going to be tough to beat in this rule set, 3 5-minute rounds. He's got very, very good wrestling, very good top control. We've rarely ever seen him get submitted. He just had a really neck-and-neck match with Joseph Chen. So a lot of these guys in this tournament have faced off previously, and these are matches that we're really interested in seeing the rematch of. But Varela, again, it's hard to pick top or low seeding in this. Varela would have done quite well at ADCC 77 kilos. I believe last time he lost to Jimenez, but again, this guy's going to be really tough to beat, let alone, he's going to be tough to submit, let alone beat under this rule set. Owen O'Flanagan, a guy's name that no American on earth can properly pronounce, but he made a splash at the last ADCC. He was able to beat Shanji Hibero. He was able to do very, very well against Wagner. I think he broke Wagner's leg. Wagner didn't tap, and then ultimately he got to Owen's broken foot himself from the Giancarlo match. But yeah, Owen did very, very well in this tournament, placing 4th. No one gave him a chance at ADCC. He has really, really improved. I remember back in the day, faced Jeremy Skinner at Polaris, and he was beaten by a Aoki lock against Jeremy Skinner. He has come a long way since then, both technically and physically. He's stacked now. He's huge, so he'll be one of the bigger guys cutting down. Our weight division will be 81. You have to make 81 kilos the morning before the first day. So Owen will be one of those guys that's pretty big for this division, and he's coming in big, and he's obviously mostly a guard puller. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes in this division. But he is a wild card. He could submit anyone in this bracket, really could catch anyone. His leg lock heavy style is going to be favorable against some of these guys in the division. Jason Nolf, Penn State Division I champion wrestler. He beat Jordan Burroughs at the last Olympic trials. Unfortunately lost to Kyle Dake, but he's about as elite as it gets for American wrestlers. He was obviously from Penn State, training alongside guys like Bo Nickel, Roman Bravo Young. Bo Nickel, we tried to get him in this tentative. Obviously, he's got one of the most promising UFC careers out there right now. But Jason Nolf, nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to out-wrestle him in this event. They might be able to counter off one of his shots, but I mean, if you take down Jason Nolf, I'll be very impressed. He's taken down guys like Jordan Burroughs. He's as high level as it gets, and people might think we're just throwing in a random wrestler. This guy's been showing up the B team since the very first day we've opened. He's been out there training with attackers. He travels around. He trains with everyone. He's been interested in jiu-jitsu for a long time. He's going to be tough. Again, 3 5-minute rounds is tough. If you do sweep him, the round might be over. We want this to be favorable as if it were the origins of ADCC, where wrestlers could do well, MMA fighters could do well. And I do think Jason Nolf can do very well in this tournament, in this bracket we have here. Now we go to Joseph Chen. Joseph Chen, obviously, we discovered in a sweatshop in China. He has come a long way as well. He's still, I think he's only 20 years old now, just turned 20, already accomplished so much. Earlier in the year, he lost to Levi, bit of a surprising result, but this year's matchups, he's been really testing himself. Really, he was focused on ADCC. He's a very intelligent guy. He will practice. He will have practice strategies against particular opponents with the long-term goal of, it was going to be ADCC. Now it's CJI for $1 million. So Levi beat him earlier in the year. Very close match. Levi's in this bracket. It's going to be interesting to see them have a rematch. But since then, he really ran through Elijah Dorsey, who won ADCC trials on the East Coast. Elijah, really, really tough. Elijah beat Nicky Ryan. Joseph ran through him, hit him with a sweet inside trip, and everyone thought Elijah had a massive wrestling advantage, so Joseph was able to take him out. Joseph's had matches against quite a few of these guys. Ty Rottola, he had a very, very close match with him. Many people were surprised at that. They thought Ty was going to run through him. Joseph, personally, I'm biased, but I think, yeah, definitely top 4 chance of taking out the $1 million, and I'll be taxing him 10% if he does get that $1 million. Now let's go to arguably the most important, number one, in my opinion, and I think across the board seed in this entire division, Cade Rottola. Cade Rottola is a previous ADCC champion for 77 kilos. He's the one championship title holder. Can't thank Shatri enough for letting us use the Rottolas for this tournament. They were going to do ADCC, but they're chasing the bag now. We really can't thank Shatri enough for allowing us to use the Rottolas. He did not have to do that. He allowed them to both pursue the money and do what they wanted. And that's a risk because obviously they get injured in a tournament like this. That's expensive for one championship. These guys have to sit on the sideline. They can't utilize what they've invested in. So again, thank you to Shatri, and thanks to Rottolas for backing this new event over the pre-existing sort of power structure in the sport. But Cade Rottola, I recently trained with him. Incredible. Dasked me in the round. Well, he rolling light, but he definitely got me. He's definitely incredible despite the size difference here and probably the lifestyle choices. He is, man, he's going to be really tough to beat. He's strong. He's dangerous from everywhere. Top, bottom, he's got buggy chokes, got leg locks, got insane back takes. Man, he's so unpredictable. Like, again, he submitted everyone at ADCC, submitted Mika Galvao to win ADCC to become the youngest champion ever. Crazy. Mika obviously wants revenge against Cade. Unfortunately, doesn't want revenge enough. He's going to have to wait a while. But Cade, easily number one seed, easily toughest guy to beat in this division. Do I think he's unbeatable? No, I don't think anyone's unbeatable in any bracket around the world. I think we could see an upset here against one of the Rotolo brothers. Levi, Australian. Levi, he was the legend in the gi, beat Lucas Lepre in the gi. He was really gi dominant guy. You can see that by his game. He's really one of the best berimbolo guys in the world in the gi. And he has finally made the correct choice to transition predominantly to no-gi. Fought it for a long time, but he came to his senses. I've known Levi for a long time. Everyone in Australia knew how good he was. America saw how good he was when he won tournaments like Pan Ams and the gi at black belt, which at the time many people didn't think was possible for an Australian. Even now, many people didn't think he was going to be able to transition that well to no-gi. But he beat Joseph Chen this year in Polaris. He's incredible. Super, super talented. One of the hardest guards to pass in all of jiu-jitsu. There are some rules in the CJI. We're defining guard as basically flat back, supine position. So we're not just going to allow people to come out and lay flat on their back. No matter what position you are, before you go flat to your back, you need to make a grip, any form of grip. So you can butt scoot and chase someone down. You can sit to a butt, to a knee. But guys with guards like Levi are going to have to establish some form of grip before falling to the flat of their back. So that's the only difference really we've made here. We don't want you to lay flat on your back. We want you to have to establish a grip before you get there. That's the only thing I'll say. But Levi knows this. He knows how to play this game. And man, he could surprise a lot of people in here. Very aggressive off his back, very great berimbolo game, very hard to shut down. He took what he does in gi and has made it work really, really well in no-gi. Now we got Lucas Barbosa. Barbosa's been around the scene forever. He's beaten everyone. He's had close matches with everyone. He's huge. They call him the Hulk for a reason. Many people are shocked that he's going to be able to make under 80, but he fought MMA at 170, so I don't think the weight cut's going to be an issue. He will be probably the most physically strong guy in this entire division. It's going to be very tough to beat. This guy came second at the last ADCC, losing to, I believe, Giancarlo in the final, the champ Giancarlo. But that was at 88 kilos. Him at 80 kilos is going to be scary. He's got a really good chance to win this. Disappeared off the scene for a while, coming back strong. Another guy, Mateus Diniz. This arsehole has beaten me. He's beaten me 2 times. 2 times? Fuck, who knows? But he is tough. Very, very tough. He beat me in the final of ADCC. He's super strategic, trains out of Marcelo Garcia Academy in New York. He's been around forever. He was part of the original Brown Belt Dream Team. Diniz was huge when he faced Marigali. I think he was over 230 pounds. Now he's doing under 80 kilos. Again, people are shocked, but he was sort of artificially inflated to take on Marigali. That's not his natural weight. His natural weight is much lower. Historically, he's done ADCC at 88 kilos. He is an ADCC champion, and he'll be facing smaller guys here. So he's going to have a strength and power advantage. We'll see how that translates cardio-wise. But again, 3 5-minute rounds. Many people can push for 5 minutes with a 1-minute break afterwards. Now we get to the world's oldest, I think, 23-year-old Nicky Ryan. Nicky Ryan has been the prodigy since he was like 13 years old. He is coming in very, very well prepared for this. I know we brought in Dima to run the ADCC CJI camps. Dima has been pushing Nicky Ryan very, very hard. That's what a guy like Nicky Ryan needs. He's got all the technique, all the intelligence of the game in the world. He could beat anyone in the world. He just needs someone coaching, watching, pushing him hard for more the competition edge here, right? We shouldn't be any different to other sports. You know, your boxing coach doesn't need to have been a former boxing world champion. He doesn't even necessarily need to know more technique than you. He just needs to know how to guide a practice and push you to your sort of full potential and guide you sort of strategically on the day and psychologically. So he's been pushing Nicky, so we'll see Nicky coming in hot. Nicky obviously just footlocked JT Torres. I'll be honest, I thought he was going to lose to JT Torres. He went out there and submitted him. JT entered a leg lock battle with a guy at better leg locks. Terrible idea. But Nicky Ryan's going to have some of the best wrestling in the division, some of the best leg locks in the division, and like I said, he's got bad cardio. 3 5-minute rounds, 1 minute break in between. That's beautiful for a guy like Nicky. He needs a breather every 1 to 5 minutes. Now we go to Canuto. Canuto and Nicky, they faced off last ADCC. Nicky Ryan did very, very well early, gassed himself out. Canuto was able to take the back at the end. So this will be an interesting rematch. Who knows, we might see that. Canuto, Vegas local, lives out here. He has had some of the best highlight reel submissions in the entire game. Coming off fight pass, he just hit like a Imanari or a flying leg scissor out of a single leg attempt by his opponent here. So he'll be one of the most exciting guys in this tournament. I'm really excited to see. He's going to do some crazy shit. I'm sure he's going to use those angled walls to jump for some wild submissions on people. He's got a really good flying arm, but I first became aware of it when he hit Bill Cooper with it way back at a tournament in Utah. Canuto, again, he's one of those guys in this division. He could submit anyone. Now, a guy that's been largely ignored in the entire bracket, Roberto Jimenez. Jimenez was big. He was in the over 80. He decided to go down to under 80. So he's coming in big. Roberto is deceptively big, but he plays a small man's game. So Barbosa and Denise play the big man style. Roberto can play any style. He can play guard. He had a match against Nicky Rod that was very, very close. Almost got Nicky Rod with the outside heel hook. Probably got some pops on him. But Roberto, unbelievable. I give him he's my personal dark horse to take this whole event. Roberto on any given day could beat anyone in the world. Historically, I have to admit he has had some weaknesses with the leg lock game, but I have a feeling, having watched his recent matches, that he has addressed those issues. So I think Roberto Jimenez is going to do very, very well. He actually submitted Andy Varela at the last ADCC, which is impressive because, again, Varela does not get submitted much. So Jimenez over there training at Unity in New York, preparing. He's putting in the work. He was qualified for ADCC after winning the South American trials. He's going to be tough to beat in this division. Again, personal dark horse. Tommy Langlacker, he's a man that can finish a beer and a nose beer very, very well. He's a man that will very rarely tap to anything. We've seen people put him in deep submissions. He does not like to tap. I've seen guys break his arm. I've seen guys heel hook him, and he just eats it, rides it out. There's a Polish kid, Matus Soshinsky, one of the best footlockers in the world. Tommy Langlack has beaten him 3 times. To not get footlocked, well, I think he got footlocked and popped, but Tommy persevered and still won the match. So, man, this guy's incredible. He's beaten me twice in the gi many years ago, so I personally know how tough he is. He's a bit of a dark horse, very similar to Levi, very good guard, very good berimbolo inversion game. He's going to do some damage in this event, but most importantly, he's going to do a lot of damage at the after party, so don't let him take you back to the bathroom. You won't get it back. Ty Rotolo, the other Rotolo brother here. Ty did not win the last ADCC, but he beat Felipe Pena, and he arguably beat Nicholas Marigali. Marigali won, obviously, but just the fact that a kid of this size did so well against those two people is incredible. He lost his division to his teammate, Josh Hinger. Who knows? That was not a great performance by him, but sometimes facing teammates, especially older ones, have that big brother effect on you. So he came out with a vengeance in the absolute of ADCC. He didn't win ADCC, but he's beaten Cade 3 times. So we really want to pit these guys against each other because they're going to be on opposite sides of the bracket, and they could face off in the final. And there's something on the line. I can attest to you that they're going to try to kill each other in that final if they make it. And it would be a crazy story if 2 brothers were to make it into the final. I know that money would go towards helping their family, helping what they're setting up out in Costa Rica, which looks like a crazy training facility in a surf spot. So Ty, I trained with him recently when I trained with Cade. Incredible. I beat Ty when he was much younger. That victory has aged well. I'll never take him on again. I'll ride that off into the sunset, just like the Marigali victory. But don't be surprised to see Ty versus Cade in the final. And then we go to Majid Haig. Majid, he's been around forever. I remember back in the day seeing him when he baseball bat choked Clark Gracie and Zach Maxwell. The whole jiu-jitsu community was absolutely shocked at that. Incredible baseball bat choke. He even tried it on me when I trained with him recently in no-gi. Rude. But he's down at Surf Fight Academy. He's training with Jeff Glover, Joel Tudor. He's got some good guys down there to train with. He was in ADCC. We brought him across. He won ADCC trials for the previous event, submitting, I think, most of the opponents in the South American division. He sort of had a big splash back in the no-gi scene. Obviously, very popular grappler. He's going to do some damage in this event as well. Again, it's so hard to pick who is going to beat who. Like, this is, again, I can't emphasize enough, it's the craziest bracket I've ever seen. Most grapplers don't deserve $1 million. Whoever wins this fucking deserves $1 million. And Kenta Iwamoto. So Kenta came in. He was our 16th pick. We already had 2 B team guys in there, so we're really trying to find someone that wasn't B team orientated, so you guys wouldn't think we're too biased. But Kenta 100% deserves this spot. He beat Joseph at the Asian trials, going back to the previous ADCC of, I believe it was, going back a long time. But Kenta's won trials 3 times. He won at 66. He went out and faced the Meow. He won at 77. And he won at 77 again, and we brought him across here. He has somewhat of an MMA background. He was a really good guard guy. When he had some MMA fights for Ryzen, he got heavily into wrestling, and his wrestling is really, really good. And we saw him at the last ADCC go neck and neck with JT Torres. He basically took JT Torres down. He took JT Torres into deep water. JT obviously won the decision. Ultimately, JT went on to lose to PJ Barch, but Kenta, for a guy that's relatively unknown in the global scheme of things, very popular in Japan, Australia, Asia, but that was a shocking thing to see him go head-to-head with JT. Like, obviously, Nicky Ryan footlocked him, but JT at the time was considered the best wrestler in the 77-kilo division, and Kenta went out there and went toe-to-toe. So that's the whole under 80-kilo bracket. Guys, if you can find a better bracket, point it out to me. There's not been a better bracket in the history of the sport. And you can notice we'll just put the bangers in there. We put the most exciting guys in there, most dangerous guys. A lot of people are talking about the rules to me right now. I say, oh, what if they do this? What if they do this? We can say with almost certainty that almost every one of these guys is going to try and kill each other. And I want this for the competitors to watch this, to know this. If you go out there and you win 4 decisions and you don't give strong attempts to finish your opponent, and we have to sell this event with your shitty highlight reel. I'm talking to people that won the ADCC Absolute without scoring a point. If I have to sell your shitty highlight reel to investors, I just won't do it. I personally won't do it. I won't do that again. This is a moment to show the world that grappling is exciting. It's your moment to show the world. So go out there and try to kill these people. You might edge your way to victory, and you might win your $1 million, but you'll probably waste it. You'll spend it on stupid shit. The million will be gone. If you go out there and try to kill, we can easily get the funding to put up $1 million every single year. So don't think about this event. Think about the excitement of the sport for the future. Because again, I can't emphasize this enough. If it's boring, I ain't going to any of my rich friends again and asking for money. I'll be fucking embarrassed. So please, most of this division, all killers going to try to submit people, but guys, this is the time to change the pay structure in the sport forever. And guys, that's the under 80 kilo breakdown. Best division in grappling history. Over 80 kilo division. Let's talk about the over 80s. Over 80s, the heavy guys are never going to have as crazy matches. You know, the big boys have worse gas tanks, but they shine bright for a short period of time. We have the BBW division here, and we do have a very, very stacked division. There will be some mismatches in the heavier division. Under 80 is a division 80% of those guys could arguably win. Here, we're going to have a select few favorites. And these select few favorites hopefully fucking destroy the guys that aren't highly seeded, because you have a great opportunity to make a crazy highlight reel free for the world to see. So we'll start with Nicky Rod. Obviously, teammate Nicky Rod, a guy that I would never want to compete against. I don't even want to train with the dude. He's too genetically, athletically gifted to be doing grappling. He should be in the NFL. He should be doing some sport with real money, although this tournament is real money. But Nicky Rod was a gifted, I believe he was a D3 wrestler, but he has this incredible flexibility. Like, he's just athletically gifted. His ability to move quickly at the weight he's at is incredible. He's jacked out of his mind. He passed the more plates, more dates, steroid tests. That is key. He's natural. He's natural. I don't want to believe it, but I have to accept it, that his genetics are that much better than mine on steroids. I just have to accept that. That's something we all have to live with. He took the more plates, more dates, steroid test passed. He also had taken a testosterone test not too long before that. I believe it was before that Gordon match where they had the close overtime. Fucking passed that test too. So he had 2 tests to back it up. I don't know why I'm talking so heavily about this. We don't test anyway, but I just want to emphasize what a genetic freak he is. And if he was on steroids, God forbid how good and dangerous he would be. Nicky Rod's easily probably the betting line favorite to take this division out. He'd be up there, right up there. He's training super hard. He's got a proper coach now. Again, his team is working with him heavily. They're strategizing, obviously for the rule set, doing a heavy camp. Man, he's beaten a lot of guys in this division. He has lost to Victor Hugo, but he's beaten a lot of these people. Again, I'm biased, but I think he's going to take the million, and it would be a nice gesture of him to give me 50% of that because I've given him some very favorable matchups here. Mason Fowler, I beat him at ADCC. That's the real victory, we'll claim that. But nah, seriously, he made me tap twice in overtime at Chael Sonnen Submission Underground. If there's a medal on the line, I lose. I was 11-0 at Submission Underground. Chael decided to put up a belt for one of those matches. I face Mason Fowler, lose. I face him again, lose again. Mason is sort of one of the best grapplers, not just in America, but in the world. He had a really close match with Nicky Rod. I think arguably you could make the case that he was beating Nicky Rod until the last minute when Nicky Rod passed straight to mount. He is very good strategically. Kaya Terra is a very strategic coach. So Mason, no doubt, will be coming into this very physically prepared, but very prepared to exploit the rule set. And I don't mean exploit it in a negative way where he's going to game the system. He's just going to be prepared for everything. He's a guy that for sure is using some angled walls, strategizing for even those things, studying the last Nicky Rod match, trying to work out how he could have won that match. Mason has beaten some of the guys in this division. He's beaten some of these guys in the gi and no gi. He is a top 4 guy. And if he wins $1 million, I would hate to give this arsehole $1 million after he submitted me 2 times. William Tackett, one of the Texas guys, obviously Andrew Tackett's brother. This kid is phenomenal, and he obviously has some massive balls for doing the over 80. I told him he could have done the under 80 and been on opposite sides, and him and Andrew could have fought in the final. I told him he could have done that, but he's standing the over 80 because now they have a chance at $2 million. That's betting on themselves. That's something I would never do. I would always choose to hedge my bets to make that easy money. But people might think William's too small. He is very small for this division, but that's not to say he doesn't have a chance. He has probably the most well-rounded game in this division in terms of wrestling, leg locks, passing. His cardio is probably, because of him being smaller, it's probably going to be the best in the division. Him and Andrew Tackett are training with the angled wall. They're trying to understand how they can use that, exploit that. He will be very tough. He'll be very tough to beat in this division. Even he had a match against Victor Hugo that was a tough match. So guys, keep your eye on William Tackett, one of the most exciting grapplers, and not enough respect can be paid to him for taking on the big boys. Now we got Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold, obviously Turkish Oil Wrestling world champion first and foremost, UFC champion, Strikeforce champion, Ralph Lauren model. If you don't know that, he will tell you very fast. But I've seen him train with guys like Nicky Rod. He has a very strong chance to beat anyone in this division. Very, very strong. He is 40. He looks 30. I don't know what he's doing. He's now not under UFC drug testing. Who knows? We'll see a new and improved Luke Rockhold. I don't know personally, but I hope so. Again, I've trained with him. He's guillotine. He's got one of the sickest guillotines in the game. And remember, you might say, oh, he's an MMA fighter. He trains with Cain Velasquez, Daniel Cormier. He trained with Habib, Islam, all the Dagestani guys for years and years. He's doing this heavy division with it's more of a wrestling focus. He's been dealing with some of the best wrestlers in combat sports for 10 to 15 years. And he has a game built entirely around having to deal with that. So if you don't think he has submission threats and wrestling scramble opportunities in this rule set, you're out of your goddamn mind. He is very, very talented. And again, we know, guys like Buchecha have said it. We know how tough this guy is. People that might think I put him in there just because he's a former UFC champion. No way. I'm only putting him in there because I think he has a legitimate chance at victory. Joao Hosha. This guy has been in the sport for a very, very long time. He might be the only guy to have won more silver medals than me. He has come second in the 80cc absolute class. I believe he lost to Calisans that year. Very, very dangerous. He has personally had some battles that have kept him off the mats. I won't go into too much detail, but him coming back is a very interesting story, very motivating story, his return to the sport. And I know he was super excited to be a part of the event. He's coming in hot, training hard. He's very, very tall, very, very strong, very big. He had a close match with Gordon. Gordon got injured going for a leg entry on him, and he almost passed Gordon. This was back at Kasai. This was it was an exciting match, a very high pressure match. He's tough. He's going to be tough for anyone in this division. Victor Hugo, equally the number one seed. He beat Nicky Rod in their most recent match. So obviously he's capable of beating Nicky Rod. He's very, very dangerous. We saw his last fight pass performance, which was sick, just scrapped with the guy. He really went for it, and that's what I think he's going to be doing for this tournament. He's not going to be playing too strategic here. We saw from his last performance how fucking exciting he is, and I think he's going to go out there and go for the kill on everyone. He'd have one of the best guards across the board, and that's difficult for big guys to have. Victor Hugo, easily top 2 betting favorite to win this. Most people would put him above Nicky Rod because of the last performance where Nicky Rod went for a leg lock and he got on top past the mountain. But I give those guys even chance there of who's going to take out this division. Owen Livesey, scary looking UK man here. Very, very jacked, impressive beard, judo background, very strong foot sweep game. He is a fan of the old foot sweep and admire your work, but when it looks so good, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? He's a smart man. He creates highlight reels. He sells instructional seminars. You got to pay respect to the game. That's all I personally meant it for, the money. Owen Livesey has done an incredible job marketing himself by taking down some of the best guys in the world. We saw him against Chris Weidman. We saw him stuff some of Nicky Rod's shots. At Quintet, that was unfortunate. Quintet's on an elevated stage. I would beg them, like any grappling promotion, if you can afford it, use some form of angled wall. We don't want the resets. Owen Livesey was good at stuffing shots in the center. He even foot swept Nicky Rod, and Nicky Rod kept marching him out of bounds. He obviously won't have the ability to do that. If you back yourself up to the angled wall, you're at a disadvantage. You can't sprawl. And it's not like a cage where you'll be held up vertically. You will be at a disadvantage. So wrestling as push-outs, consider the angled wall a push-out. You're at a disadvantage. You're taking a loss for backing yourself up. That being said, Owen Livesey is going to be one of the toughest guys in this division to take down. And if he gets on top, one of the toughest guys to make anything happen to. Despite how big he looks, he will have a weight disadvantage against quite a few of these guys. But he's going to put in some exciting performances, and if he can edge out those takedown battles, he's going to do very, very well. Philippe Andrew, really, really tough, submission-orientated grappler. He's got crazy reversals. I've stolen moves from him. He adds this move when someone has a standing rear body lock where he grabs the wrist and he hits this like hip switch, foot kick. I don't even know what the fuck you'd call it, but it's wild. He's super exciting. One of the best straight ankle locks in the game. He straight ankle locked many of the best guys in the game. Scary straight ankle lock. I have to be honest, he is a gi-orientated grappler, gi-focused, but his no-gi talent is still there. And it could pop up. And he could have that once, hopefully not once in a lifetime, but could have that game-changing transition performance from gi to no-gi, and it could be at this tournament. People have to respect how dangerous his subs are, and I can't emphasize enough that, that foot lock is very, very scary, but he's a well-rounded grappler, very, very good submissions from everywhere. Max Jimenez, he's been around, again, for a long time. We brought him basically out of retirement for this. He's been over there teaching at his academy, building up his academy. He is super tough, though, still. He just beat Big Dan at Karate Combat. Props to him for that. Many people thought he didn't have a chance in that match. I was worried about his legs in that match. Big Dan's like 300 pounds, 6'8". He's still got Frankenstein's bolts in his neck. Max Jimenez was able to beat Big Dan. Max has a long history of matches with many of these opponents. And like when he accepted the call, he told me he's going to get in the best shape of his life. He's motivated. He's hungry, $1 million on the line. That is going to put a guy like Max, he's probably going to be the best shape he's ever had for any tournament. Adam Bradley. Adam Bradley has had some bad calls in ADCC, and it'd be hard not to take that personally. I don't understand the rules of ADCC. ADCC is open to interpretation like most rules are, except Adam Bradley has been historically beefing with Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan happens to be friends with Mo Jassim. Mo Jassim is the ADCC organizer, and Adam Bradley, has had some historically bad calls with the event. One in particular against Giancarlo. He set up a deep half sweep. Giancarlo went back for a straight ankle lock, but the initiation was began by Adam Bradley. He cleared the ankle lock, got on top, no sweep points. So as far as I'm concerned, that should have been sweeps. And then the most egregious, I have to say this, I love Pixley. I love the Daisy Fresh crew. I think Pixley would have been in ADCC no matter what, despite everything that happened. But the worst call I've ever seen in my life was Adam Bradley hitting a deep half sweep on Michael Pixley in the ADCC West Coast Trials final, where he got on top for 20 seconds. Pixley went for a switch at the start, didn't work. And then he was on top, not in a switch, like a wrestling switch, for over 5 seconds. And it wasn't scored. It was not scored. And all the while, the organizer, who's friends with Gordon, who hates Adam Bradley, sat at the judges' table. So in terms of bias, Adam Bradley is very, very emotional and upset about those two calls which could have arguably changed his life at the time. So when he decided to come across, it meant a lot to us. He's obviously putting faith in the rule set we proposed, but he's also making a statement, not really ADCC focused, but sort of personally focused against Mo Jassim there. So totally understand. But Adam Bradley, despite all that, is going to be a super tough threat in this division. One of the best deep half guards in the world. Deep half works very, very good on the big boys. So I put him in quite good stead to take out this division. Now, Inacio Santos, I can't say I know a ton about this guy. I know he won Brazilian. We won the South American trials. I know he's doing the camp at Atos under the tutelage of Andre Galvão. He's coming in very, very motivated. $1 million goes much further in Brazil than it does in the US. So this man's going back, probably take care of many, many of his family members with this amount of money. But to win South American trials is a big deal. And also, just being a part of the Atos camp, there's no question he's going to be very, very tough to beat. His size is quite big compared to a lot of the boys in this division. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I've got to ask Andre Galvão for a little bit more information about his game. Given that I invited all these guys, and I don't know much about him, it's going to be tougher for his opponents to study him as well. So he's going to be a bit of a wild card. Now we got Pat Downey. We threw Pat Downey in there. Yeah, we want to steal some of those wrestling fans, but Pat is exciting. He's got a crazy upper body lock game. We saw him tech Nicky Rod pretty fast when they had their wrestling super fight, and Pat famously had the wrestling match against Gordon, where I think he beat him in 10 seconds, something hilarious. But Pat's a character. He's transitioned. He's done well in MMA. He's in the event. He's training at Fight Sports. He's sort of got the right guys around him. And again, given the 3x5 minute rounds, I think you guys will be shocked that wrestlers can do well in this division. And Pat Downey's not coming in as this massive, oversized wrestler where guys won't think they can take him down. Some guys might want to test their takedowns against him and not pull guard. Big guys get tired pulling guard. And we'll see what Pat Downey can do. Pedro Alex, I believe his nickname's Bon Bon. He beat Big Dan, ADXC. Fuck. I keep bringing up Big Dan. I don't mean to be so personal. I'm saying that out of respect to Big Dan because he's one of the best big guys. He's one of the biggest grapplers in the game and one of the best grapplers in the game, one of the most dangerous grapplers in the game. So whenever a guy beats him, I'm just like, how do you beat a 6'8", 300-pound dude? Pedro Alex did that. I believe it was at ADXC. He came recommended from Hal Teague. He trains out in Texas, I believe, with Alexander Trans. I believe that's one of his training partners. Trans, historically, very, very good grappler. Actually, a guy I wanted in this. I wanted him in this. I wanted Wadinsky in this. Couldn't get him, but we got Pedro Alex, and I think he's another bit of a wild card. People see some of the names of this division, might look past him, but he is brilliant in the gi, and he's beat Big Dan in no gi. That is someone I wouldn't be looking past. Now, I've got to confirm his name. Daniel Greg Kirkvilliet, I don't know. But this, you might be thinking, who the fuck is this guy? This guy's a 280-pound monster NCAA Division I champion who had a really close match with Gable Stevenson, really, really close. If you're going a close wrestling match with Gable Stevenson, you're going to be one of the most impressive, technically gifted wrestlers in the entire world. Gable Stevenson, obviously Olympic gold medalist. I believe he's doing all sorts of shit now, WWE, NFL. This kid, I promise you this, you got 5 minutes, you don't have one of the best guards in the world, you don't have some of the best leg locks in the world, that guy is going to be a massive, massive problem. I don't think anyone comes close to taking him down. You cannot wrestle against this guy. Not one person in this bracket is probably going to wrestle against him. Maybe someone as fearless as Luke Rockhold or maybe a William Tackett trying to enter the legs from a standing position, but this kid's like 280 pounds. You're going to go flying. You run the risk of going flying, and then if he's on top of you, knows how to pin you, he's going to come forward. That is a massive, massive problem. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is doing a bit of MMA now. He's done very well at ADCC in the past. Unfortunately, famous for getting heel hooked by Lachlan Giles for the third place of the 2019 ADCC Absolute. You saw Muhammad Ali. He's one of the biggest, most jacked human beings we've ever seen in this sport. It's kind of like a Bob Sapp level of jacked. But Muhammad Ali is a IBJJF gi gold medalist. Again, did very, very well at ADCC. He's disappeared from the scene for a bit, obviously pursuing MMA. A lot of guys get into MMA for the money. He is back for the $1 million. And this is going to be wild to see what he comes back in. And if he's been training MMA and he's been working on his wrestling, I think he's going to get better. He's going to be better for this than any previous no-gi grappling event. Kyle Bain. Kyle Bain is one of 10th Planet's best guys, definitely 10th Planet's biggest guy. He has wins. He outside heel hooked Joao Gabriel. To be honest, back in the day, he had a pretty close match with Gordon until he got submitted. He is an EBI overtime expert. He's had matches with Nicky Rod. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else in the division he's had matches against. But I just saw him down in San Diego. He's ready to go. He's in good shape. He's training so hard he was puking. He'll be a problem for people in the division. Obviously, you can't let this guy get you back. If he gets you back, you're never getting out until the round ends. Then you have to start standing again. But Kyle's a really good guard, really good Kimura trap. Obviously, really good back escapes. This guy's tough to submit. He's a bit of a wild card in this division. He could take out anyone with some poor leg lock defense quite convincingly. And he's leg locked some people that haven't been leg locks that I'm aware of, like Joao Gabriel. But that is the over 80. One of these lucky bastards going to get $1 million. Unfortunately, it's not me. Fionn Davies, Mackenzie Dern. I wasn't going to say too much about this, but obviously we should give them the props they deserve, just in case you live in a corner of the earth that you don't know who these women are. Fionn Davies is the #1 female grappler, in my opinion, in the world, pound for pound. She's had a long career. She's IBJJF gi world champion, ADCC champion. She is absolutely incredible and incredible role model and sort of for her position in the sport. Her withdrawal from ADCC to participate in the CJI basically strong-armed them into raising the pay. And Fionn Davies, yeah, we love having her involved in the event. She was super easy to work for. Obviously, I slap $1 million on the table as a gesture to show I have money. You get some calls, people asking for obnoxious amounts of money. At the end of the day, it's a charity event. Fionn Davies came on board. Basically, her purse is predominantly charity. That's such an incredible gesture for her to do this. So we've got someone that's very well-intentioned. It's not about the money. It's about making a statement for women's sports and getting women paid. And it's coming from the top down. That's what's most important. Because of her skill set and her accomplishments and her popularity amongst grappling fans, she making this statement is what got the women paid. That's absolutely incredible position to be in. But again, she's the #1. She would have been the favorite for the division at ADCC. Her and Mackenzie were going to do that division. Mackenzie Dern was a 2015 ADCC champ. Everyone knows Mackenzie. If you've been in the sport a long time, you know Mackenzie. Gabby may have beaten her 300 times, but she beat Gabby Garcia one time, and that's the one victory that matters. Mackenzie's dad, Megaton, is jiu-jitsu legend. I think he's competed in every gi world championships ever since it started, and they rewarded him this year by giving him Mika Galbao first round. But she has a long history in the sport. Dad's a legend in the sport. She's won everything there is to win. She was the #1 female grappler in the world before she went over to MMA. Now she's had an extensive UFC career. And The real hardcore jiu-jitsu fans know how good Mackenzie is. If you've started recently, you might think, oh, it's going to be a bit of a squash match for Fionn. Mackenzie's been busy training for MMA. But again, you watch her MMA, it's grappling focused. Her submissions are wild. Her wrestling's crazy. So this is a good match. This is a really interesting match. The previous generation versus the current generation, getting Mackenzie to be a part of this show was a huge honor for us as an organization because, again, she's ADCC Hall of Fame level. And she's coming over to CJI. So we can't thank her enough for participating in this. And really, as a UFC star, as someone with a huge global audience, as someone that's very, very close with people like Mark Zuckerberg, she is putting it all on the line 2 weeks after an MMA fight against Fionn Davies, who's the current greatest grappler in the world. So we're taking the previous generation's GOAT. She's gone over and competed in MMA for many, many years. And she's coming out of retirement for the cause of charity, for the attention on the sport. And it's not just doing it and being like, oh, give me an easy match. I'm a UFC legend at this point. She's taken on the best of the best. So I want you guys to realize how special it is to actually have booked that match, how difficult that match was to book. And props to both of these girls for putting it all on the line. And really, this one really sold a lot of tickets for us. It's going to get a lot of views for us. So the goal was to get athletes paid, noticed, and donate a lot of money to charity. And thanks to Mackenzie Dern's participation, that's gone through the roof. There's some things she's helped me with behind the scenes. I don't want to discuss publicly here, but things that her influence in this event is going to help really, really grow our event. Me versus Gabby Garcia, biggest match fight in combat sports history, biggest love story, combat sports history, and again, collaboration on OnlyFans. If I'm able to footlock her, she shook on it. That's the deal. It's like one of these assholes going to get $1 million. All right, I need you to help me out of this.
Hold on. Is it unbuttoned all the way?
Yeah, that's good. There you go.
Alrighty.
Now straight there.